Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Cartesians, we're coming a bit unstuck from
Right.
Descartes, but there's a range of philosophy, of which a paradigm case
Sure.
would be someone who thinks.
Right.
There's the non-conceptual or the preconceptual given. That's what consciousness is. Now that's foundational
Right.
for belief and knowledge, being onto things conceptually.
Right.
There's a preconceptual way of being onto things that's the base of it all being conceptually onto things. It's exactly right to say, well, no, if that's what you want to mean by consciousness, it cannot be significant in that kind of way. The things I was complaining about the posture that you take in your writings was that, at least implicitly, your drift is something like, and what's more, that's what there is to mean by consciousness. I don't mean that you explicitly say that, but that's the only shape in which the very idea of consciousness as something that might be interesting and important comes up. Consciousness as, let's say, to sum it up, a non-conceptual taking in of the given.
Uh-huh.
And sure, that's epistemologically hopeless. It's hopeless for purposes of thinking about what it is to be conceptually onto things. That's your negative point, and I wholeheartedly concur.
Right.
But that's it. That's Davidson on consciousness, or Davidson on subjectivity. The negative point is the whole of Davidson on subjectivity. Do not fall into the myth, which is fine. It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
We mustn't fall into the myth.
Well, it's more.
But what there isn't is an opening, as it were, to look, the idea of subjectivity or the idea of consciousness of things is maybe even so quite a promising idea, which we could get back from the useless, pseudo-epistemological mess that philosophers of that kind have made of it.
Well, it happens again and again that people make sense of some notion where it looked hopeless to one or another of us before, and so I'm happy to wait until somebody does this for me, but so far I haven't got it. I think there's more to my attack on subjectivism than just this epistemic point. I mean, there's also the point that I don't think we have any use for, or even can make good sense of, the notion of objects before the mind, which are purely individual. And that's a big thing, because a lot of people believe in that who don't necessarily make the epistemic mistake. And then further, there's the point that insofar as we can understand the contents of another mind at all, they're thinking about the same world we are. So in that sense, the contents of all thought belongs to a public way of thinking. Now, so there's more than just the epistemic point. There are really several other.
I actually meant the sketch of the epistemic point that I gave to include what I think of as something about intentionality or something like that in some really general way. I mean, the bad idea that the Cartesians had was that they could make sense of how it is that we're onto things with that conception of consciousness, the conception of consciousness as the given at the base of it all. And it isn't just a a point about the uselessness of an epistemology to say, no, that's no good. It's a point about the uselessness of a putative approach to the very idea of having thought that's about things, whether it's knowledgeable about them or not. That that would be great if it was knowledgeable, but we're not even going to get it to be vulnerable to the things for whether it's true or not. So to be intelligibly about the things at all, if we think that how thinking basically hooks up with the world is through the given. But okay,
let me make my own stab at this. I certainly think lots of things go on in our brains, in our minds, perhaps, that is non-linguistic. Dreaming, for example, is fantasizing to some extent. So whether you, I wouldn't so much call that pre-linguistic as just non-propositional in character. So, and sensations are certainly non-propositional. Tickles and itches, pains, and so forth. It would be foolish to deny any of that, and I hope nothing I said about the subjective touched on that sort of thing at all. But when you talk about a non-linguistic or non-propositional way of taking things in, then I begin to not so much say, no, there isn't any such thing, as to say, well, explain, please.
Well, I'll say a useless thing. Kant explained it in the transcendental deduction of the categories. That's a completely useless thing to say, because you look at those pages, but I actually do think that there's already it happened a long time ago. That there was a move in philosophy that replicated the fine negative thing that you do. This will not do. This will not give us an intelligible picture of what it is to be onto things. So that idea of consciousness is useless. Useless for epistemology. Useless for understanding intentionality, understanding aboutness. But then I think what's grand about Kant is that he didn't make this throw out the baby or defeatist move. Okay, concept of consciousness is a lost cause. He clawed it back for a purpose that in one way matches what the Cartesians hopelessly thought they could do with their concept. Their concept just wasn't up to the job. That's what you have so beautifully seen. The big job wasn't up to the job. I think what Kant saw is that another concept of consciousness that's really close to the central conceptual apparatus of Davidsonian interpretation, working our way into understanding points of view, might be up to the job. It strikes me as in some ways a really small shift to the picture as you see it, so that I'm really tempted to say it still is a Davidsonian picture. To say, look, point of view, it's not a descendant of the Cartesian ego, because it's point of view onto the real.
Okay.
You've got it that it's rich with beliefs and desires, propositions.